233 days. That's all Real Madrid gave him.
Breaking news out of La Liga, where Real Madrid has agreed to mutually part ways with first-team coach Xabi Alonso.
From one of the most anticipated managers of the decade to being thrown out after a Spanish Super Cup final. £2.24 points per game, the same as Hansi Flick, the man being praised as a genius at Barca during that same period. 13 wins in the first 14 matches.
You can really recognise the pressure that Xabi Alonso is under right now, because the wins are one thing. You're always going to be expected goals. You're always going to get wins as a Real Madrid manager. The quality that runs throughout your squad really does highlight as to why you are one of the best teams in world football. But it's the draws and the losses.
It's shown that they're beatable, that they're vulnerable. And that's what's more worrying about Real Madrid, rather than the guys up top coming together and fitting. It feels like a guy like Xabi Alonso, that he's going to be able to figure out.
But in the end, Xabi Alonso became nothing more than an outcast. Not because of the results, not because of the tactics, but because he collapsed under the weight of superstar egos. People thought the story was over for Xabi Alonso, that he would only be a one-season wonder coach with Bayer Leverkusen. But now, a crazy new chapter is opening for him.
Xabi Alonso is new Chelsea manager. Here we go.
Here we go. It's done. Xabi Alonso to Chelsea. Xabi Alonso to the Premier League is going down. We're here for it. We're excited. I think this Xabi Alonso move is the perfect move for Chelsea Football Club.
That FA Cup that Man City robbed from us today, they could shove it up there. Because the Premier League title is coming to Chelsea next season.
4 years. Manager. He arrived with an ultimatum. Full control over transfers or nothing at all.
So he has to have control, or an element of control that some managers haven't had. And he has to have a big sway in how the club has been run, certainly on field, and all big decisions with players. So he's stepping from almost the frying pan into the fire here, but as we've talked before, Chelsea is a big job. But you've got to make sure you're keeping the best players. So, there's no point Xabi Alonso coming in, you sell Cole Palmer, you sell Enzo Fernandez, you sell Caicedo. You've got to keep your big players, your core players, and build around that. But if you want to keep those big stars at your football club, you have to make a statement in terms of the manager. And to be fair, this is a statement.
People may say this is the story of a failed manager searching for a new home. But sit down, because I'm about to show you that this is a discarded diamond and Chelsea just picked it up.
Xabi Alonso comes in, everything's changing. Everything's changing, bro. Everything's changing. This new Xabi Alonso is a new era, honestly. It's a fresh of breath air for the Chelsea fans.
I'll say something as well. And I feel like how Xabi Alonso is coming into the club now, I feel like how he's bringing in his new coaching staff is going to bring in a new atmosphere, new talent, new things that we're able to see from this club. And you never know, maybe great things next season. Maybe great things will come for us.
They're lucky. Chelsea are very lucky that he's available at this time to get a manager like him to come and sort them out where they are in that chaotic vibe. They've got this manager at the perfect time for them, Chelsea.
Xabi Alonso did not become different by accident. He is a one-of-a-kind product forged from a top-secret project, trained by 4 of the greatest minds of the modern football era. Alonso's tactical DNA was programmed through the iron discipline and game-suffocating structure of Rafael Benítez at Liverpool. Then, Jose Mourinho threw him into the Bernabeu furnace, teaching him brutal lessons about managing million-dollar egos and surviving ruthless dressing room politics. At Real Madrid, he also absorbed the priceless soft power of Carlo Ancelotti, a leader who never ruled with fear, yet always made superstars willingly fight to exhaustion for him. Finally, Pep Guardiola arrived at Bayern Munich, upgrading Alonso's mind with the most advanced operating system in football, positional play and absolute control. Having inherited the most elite and extreme football legacies imaginable, Alonso refused to become anyone's copy. Instead, he fused them all together to create a manifesto entirely his own.
His position on the pitch and his knowledge of the game very high, and then he played in Spain, in England and in Germany, and he was coached by Guardiola in Bayern, by myself in Real Madrid, by Ancelotti in Real Madrid, by Benítez in Liverpool. If you put all this together, I think Xabi has conditions to be a very good coach.
While Thomas Tuchel grew up under the shadow of Jurgen Klopp, Erik ten Hag tried to replicate the source code of Pep Guardiola, and even Pep himself inherited the legacy of the saintly Johan Cruyff. Xabi Alonso possessed a privilege unlike anything football had ever seen. He learned from all four of the greatest minds of the modern era. Alonso's philosophy is not a borrowed product or a cheap imitation. It is the ultimate fusion, the miracle created when you throw Guardiola's positional intelligence, Mourinho's armoured defensive structure, and Ancelotti's mastery of human management into one laboratory and let them collide and evolve for 15 years. Alonso is not merely a strategist, he is a living PhD in football. And he did not prove that degree in a lecture hall. He shattered every limit in over 160 years of German football history with one unprecedented season. In October 2022, Bayer Leverkusen hit rock bottom, buried in 17th place in the Bundesliga table, a position where one more disastrous week could have dragged them into relegation, and a broken team so lifeless that even their most loyal supporters no longer had the courage to watch the highlights. Right in the middle of that storm, Xabi Alonso arrived. Without panic, without theatrics, he calmly took over the hottest seat in football as if he had prepared for that moment his entire life. By the end of the 2022-23 season, Leverkusen completed a stunning turnaround, finishing 6th and securing Europa League football through a completely rebuilt tactical system.
When the Spanish legend took over the West German club in October, they were sitting on a 17th place, direct relegation spot with only 5 points in 8 games. A good squad on paper, but nobody was performing. And then you bring in an unproven manager like Alonso? He had never managed a professional team, but it paid off big time. His passion and enthusiasm completely transformed Leverkusen. Also helped by the return of wonderkid Florian Wirtz, Alonso got 38 points in 19 Bundesliga games. And also managed to take the club into the Europa League quarterfinals. They've won 7 games in a row now, and for the first time this season finish a match day on a European spot. So in his first ever professional job, Xabi Alonso could be taking Leverkusen from a relegation spot to top 4 UCL next season and even into the Europa League final.
But that was only the beginning. Entering the 2023-24 campaign, Alonso officially rewrote history, transforming Leverkusen into an invincible Bundesliga champion across all 34 matches, completing a domestic double with the DFB Pokal, and setting an untouchable milestone of 51 consecutive unbeaten matches, the longest unbeaten streak in German football history.
And here we go. The Meisterschale in Leverkusen's hands for the first time. Bayer Leverkusen unbeaten across the board in the Bundesliga. New territory for a club in the top flight of German football.
It feels great because I have the feeling that this is not just for us. This is for so many people that have been chasing this dream for so many years. It's so great to bring success and to be part of this success with this team.
The only blemish in that perfect journey came against Atalanta BC in the Europa League final, where Bayer Leverkusen collapsed in a brutal 3-0 defeat to the Italian side.
Atalanta take the lead. Oh, he scored again. Ademola Lookman. Oh, what a way to complete the first hat and put a trophy.
Atalanta's greatest night. Gasparini has brought glory to the goddess. Their first European trophy. History made in Dublin. A hat-trick for Ademola Lookman. Beyond special. Their 61-year wait for major silverware over, and they've beaten the previously invincible to achieve it. Leverkusen's incredible run is over, finally beaten.
Europa League winners 2024, Atalanta.
However, this is the most important chapter, the priceless detail most people ignore, yet the golden key explaining why Chelsea should be celebrating Alonso is not just a trophy hunter, he is an architect of human evolution on the pitch. Under his guidance, Florian Wirtz evolved from a promising wonder kid into the best player in Germany with a valuation exceeding €100 million. Alejandro Grimaldo transformed from an overlooked left-back at Benfica into one of the finest wing-backs in Europe, and Victor Boniface, once an unknown striker from Belgium's second division, was elevated by Alonso into the conversation among Europe's elite forwards. That is the true definition of a world-class strategist. Not someone who simply chooses the best pieces, but someone who forges a winning machine out of the pieces already available. Which leads to a terrifying question. If Alonso could create miracles at Leverkusen, a crumbling club sitting 17th and ignored by the world, then what happens when he gains full control over treasures like Cole Palmer, Moises Caicedo, and Esteban Willian?
You respect the manager a lot and you want him to be manager, and can he be involved in terms of players coming in and players leaving? Because usually it's the hierarchy at Chelsea that do that, but I think now that says a lot, that they respect Xabi Alonso, and they've basically said the ball's in your court, go and win us the Premier League or make us challenge next season or bring us a trophy to the football club. And I think he'd do that. I think Chelsea have got themselves a really bright manager.
First, however, we must confront an uncomfortable truth. Most of the football world completely misunderstands Xabi Alonso. The historical turning point arrived in June 2025 when Real Madrid officially appointed Xabi Alonso, igniting one of the most anticipated managerial unveilings since Pep Guardiola first stepped into Bayern Munich. That blockbuster appointment immediately burned away all doubt with a dreamlike start of 13 devastating victories in the first 14 La Liga matches. But then came the El Clasico earthquake in October, the moment everything changed. Alonso made a tactical gamble by moving Vinicius Jr. away from his natural left flank role, directly igniting the fury of the Brazilian superstar. A fracture that extended far beyond the pitch itself.
Yeah, well, that situation's been stalled for a long time, Dan, and we know this situation between Vinicius and Alonso in particular, it's been the case since the summer. It started in the summer when Alonso came in, going back to the Club World Cup. Around that time, Vinny's camp started to feel that the player wasn't the kind of player that the coach was particularly enamoured with, and that's continued every time he's been on the bench, and he's been benched multiple times by Alonso so far this season, something that never happened really under Carlo Ancelotti. When Vinny was fit, he played. He was, untouchable under that regime, and that's no longer the case. And like I say, it's been brewing now for months, and certainly there are growing reports here that he's not the only one. This situation between Xabi Alonso and the dressing room, something that Alonso denied after the Elche game. He said, no, the connection between me and the players is improving, it's getting better and better. It doesn't look like that's the case.
The conflict had actually been simmering since the pre-season tour in the United States, where Xabi Alonso attempted to launch a cultural revolution inside the club. He imposed strict military-like discipline with harsh punctuality rules, sealed off training areas from outside influence, and demanded an extreme level of tactical discipline. Minimum standards any healthy club, but a fatal spark inside a kingdom built on pampering superstars like Real Madrid. But this was not a normal football club. This was Real Madrid, where diva are not disciplined, they are protected. The domino effect exploded quickly when Bellingham and Camavinga also began openly expressing frustration, officially dragging the Real Madrid dressing room into a deeply divided civil war. The consequences immediately appeared on the scoreboard. A humiliating 2-5 collapse against Atletico Madrid, a shameful 0-2 defeat at the Bernabeu against Celta de Vigo, and ultimately elimination from the Champions League. However, this is the core data you are forced to analyse. Statistically, Alonso was still averaging 2-4 points per game in La Liga. By the time Real Madrid decided to sack him in January 2026, they were only 3 points behind Barcelona, almost identical form to Hansi Flick, who was being celebrated by the media as the saviour of Catalonia. So what was the difference? Flick had a squad ready to run through walls for him. Alonso was dealing with players secretly sabotaging his reign. And in the ultimate power struggle, when Alonso needed Florentino Perez to use his authority to restore order against the ego of Vinicius Jr., the powerful Real Madrid president chose to stay silent.
It's Xabi Alonso comes in, but he wasn't picked by Florentino. He wasn't his first choice. And then it's Xabi Alonso trying to impregnate his style, trying to impose his will, and being undermined by Florentino. You substitute, whether it was right or wrong, a player like Vinny Jr., and he comes off bitching and moaning, and then he apologizes to everybody but the manager. And he is backed by Florentino and by the board. And then you see them pick the side of the footballers. And then you see a captain, team captain like Valverde, who refuses to play right back for Xabi Alonso, who refuses to go into a game, Champions League against Olympiacos, for Xabi Alonso. And then it's Jude Bellingham. And then it's Kylian Mbappe choosing which and when he plays and what type of game he plays in. He's more concentrated on the individual performances and the stats that go with the individual performances than being ready for the long stretch. And it's this player here and that player there. And
the moment Real Madrid's board chose to protect brand value instead of backing their strategist, they officially stripped Alonso of control over the dressing room. Every player in the squad immediately understood the message. The power struggle was decided from that exact moment, not on the pitch, but inside Florentino Perez's office. And this is the clearest evidence of that division. When the sacking was announced, Kylian Mbappe, the superstar who scored 24 La Liga goals under Alonso's system and the only player truly committed to his philosophy, was the only one who publicly posted farewell message. Meanwhile, Vinicius, Bellingham, absolute silence from the most powerful egos in the dressing room.
And we all felt that Alonso was going to come in and it was going to be fresh and it was going to be different and it was going to be vibrant and dynamic, and it was the opposite. And I think it was the opposite, not because he didn't want that, but I think it was the opposite because he got a group of players, and maybe I'm not painting them all with this brush, but it certainly looks like a lot of them have almost, whilst not maybe verbally have said anything, but are thinking to themselves, this is how we do things at Real Madrid, this is what's worked for us, and we're not taking on board what you want.
When the club's top scorer is the only player thanking the manager, who was just fired, the question of who the real cancer cells inside the dressing room are suddenly answers itself. The reality is that Real Madrid did not sack a bad coach, they sacked a tactical genius who refused to bow down to football divas. And Chelsea have just acquired that man, an upgraded version carrying every painful lesson imaginable, yet with his philosophy and identity completely intact. Because the only thing Alonso carried away from Madrid was not psychological trauma. It was absolute clarity about the mistakes he is determined never to repeat in the next chapter of his career. Look at Chelsea's current roster, and you will see a squad unbelievably young in profile. Cole Palmer, Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, new signing Estevao Willian, and Pedro Neto together form a core with an average age under 25. This is not a dressing room that needs a babysitter to manage superstar egos. This is a raw mine waiting for a master architect to unleash its full potential. And when Alonso's iconic 3-4-3 system from Leverkusen is placed onto this squad, every piece suddenly fits perfectly. Malo Gusto possesses every quality required to become the ideal right wing back: explosive speed, elite technical ability, and devastating flank penetration, the exact blueprint Alonso craved. On the opposite side, Marc Cucurella is the perfect answer for the left wing-back role. Remember how Alonso transformed Alejandro Grimaldo from an ordinary player at SL Benfica into one of Europe's best wing-backs. Now Alonso has Cucurella in his hands, a player whose overall profile may actually surpass Grimaldo's at that same stage. But beyond every tactical concept or formation board, the core value Chelsea are giving Alonso is the one thing he never truly had at Real Madrid: supreme authority. At Stamford Bridge, Alonso will hold the position of a true manager, not merely a head coach restricted to training sessions.
And I think it's an absolute coup for Chelsea to get him. I think is absolutely an incredible piece of business because he was very highly sought after. A lot of big clubs out there looking for a big manager, and to get him through the door makes you think that Chelsea are willing to offer him a lot. They're willing to put things in favour of him to go forward and hope. Well, not for me, but Chelsea, they would like to think they learned from the mistakes in the past with the managers, and if he's coming in, they're going to give him a lot of responsibility to take this group forward.
You need the senior pros, like a Gary was back in the day. So for me, getting Xabi Alonso gets that instant respect of what he's done as a player, but also what Stephen says as a manager. He doesn't need this. He doesn't need it unless it's right for him. So he is now a manager, not a head coach.
I was going to ask.
And for me, that makes a big, big difference. It's a massive statement.
Alonso's arrival promises to trigger insane individual leaps across the entire Stamford Bridge pitch. Cole Palmer, already a genius, could evolve into one of the top 3 attacking midfielders on the planet inside a positional play system with clearly defined roles. In midfield, Moises Caicedo possesses the exact skill set designed to dominate a double pivot inside a 3 centre-back structure. Meanwhile, Enzo Fernandez, a player who has struggled because of the lack of a clearly defined role, may finally find the perfect mentor in Alonso, one of the greatest deep-lying playmakers in football history. In attack, just look at how Alonso transformed Florian Wirtz into a monster to imagine what could soon happen with Astavo Willian, the Brazilian wonderkid who has just arrived at the club. It is a breathtaking vision of the future, but football has never been built on promises, and Chelsea's chaotic history over recent years is a brutal reminder that potential has never guaranteed success at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea are a luxurious, ambitious football machine, but also one of the most ruthless managerial grinders in world football. Just look at the facts. Enzo Maresca delivered the Conference League title, won the Club World Cup, brought the club back into the Champions League, yet was still sacked simply for publicly criticising the medical department. Liam Rosenior signed a 6.5-year contract only to survive a mere 106 days. Even at executive level, Chelsea currently operate with a 5-man sporting director structure. That level of bureaucracy is a massive cultural shock for Alonso, who just left the streamlined and clearly defined hierarchy at Leverkusen.
It's great Alonso coming in. Does he have any power? Does he have any say in the transfers? Is he allowed to pick the lineup? Is he allowed to decide how long players are allowed to play? Is that the medical team's decision? Do we even have money to give him? You know, and these are the questions that I want answers to. I mean, I know that we're owned by private equity and they're not going to overspend. So we've already spent over 2 billion. I don't think there's a lot of money left, so I think Alonso has to work with what he has. It's a great manager, but he's not working with a great ownership, so that's my real concern.
On top of that, enormous squad uncertainties still surround Stamford Bridge. Will Chelsea be able to keep a genius like Cole Palmer amid aggressive interest from Real Madrid and Manchester City? What will happen to the future of Enzo Fernandez with Europe's giants circling around him? And can new signing João Pedro truly adapt to the new tactical system? But above all, the core problem remains the enormous gap between promises and reality in West London. If Chelsea's 5-man sporting director group begins interfering with and overruling Alonso's decisions the same way they treated Maresca, history will absolutely repeat itself. Now, the ultimate question surrounding this new chapter is not whether Alonso is good enough to lead Chelsea. It is whether Chelsea are mature enough to deserve someone of Alonso's magnitude.
If Alonso is given these players and told, go and compete, Chelsea are not going anywhere. They are going to need to massively invest again into this squad. But this time, not 20-year-olds, not 19-year-olds from Brazil. It needs to be established players who are either in their prime or have done things in the game already. Because this team needs surgery, in my opinion. Get about 4 or 5 starters into this team and let's see what Chelsea can do. But you're only as good as your players. Managers are not magicians, and we really, really need to drum that in.
The truth is that Xabi Alonso did not fail at the Bernabeu. He was betrayed by diver egos refusing to submit to discipline, by a board prioritising commercial value over the manager, and by a home that once represented greatness but no longer matched his stature. Chelsea have just picked up that priceless diamond from the ashes of Real Madrid, and now, and this if could define the entire summer, Todd Boehly and his partners truly give Alonso supreme authority, protect his control, and build a civilised dressing room instead of a chaotic circus. Then, within the next 2 to 3 years, Chelsea will become the most terrifying force in the Premier League, not through money, but through tactical domination. Arsenal have Mikel Arteta, Liverpool have Arne Slot, while Manchester City are struggling through the post-Guardiola transition era. But Chelsea, they possess Xabi Alonso, the man whose DNA was programmed by all the greatest minds in football history. The professor has officially walked through the doors of Stamford Bridge. Alonso's lesson begins now. If you enjoy our video, don't forget to hit like to help this video reach to other football lovers, and hit the subscribe button to follow for more interesting videos about football stories. See you in the next video.